The battlefield was silent in the wrong way. Smoke drifted slowly over broken metal and shattered stone, hanging low like a gray fog that refused to leave. The war had moved on. Ships had lifted into the sky hours ago, engines screaming as they escaped the dying outpost. What remained was ruin, fire, and the bodies of those who were not worth saving. Among them lay Karek. He had once been called the Shield of Vierks, an elite warrior of his species, feared by enemies and respected by allies. His armor was cracked now, its glowing lines dim and broken. One of his arms lay twisted at an angle it should never take. His legs did not respond no matter how hard he tried to command them. The blast that had saved his unit had shattered his spine. Karek stared up at the sky through a hole in the ceiling. He could not feel the lower half of his body. He already knew what that meant. In his culture, a warrior who could not stand was no warrior at all. He remembered the last looks his unit had given him, not hate. Not anger, just cold acceptance. The transport doors had closed, no words were spoken, they had not even checked if he still breathed. Left to die. The wind carried distant sounds, metal shifting, something crawling through debris. Scavengers would come soon. Or worse, the Void Raiders would return to strip the dead. Either way, his end would not be quick. Karek felt no fear, only emptiness. He had lived for battle. Without it, there was nothing. Footsteps echoed through the ruins. Karek's eyes shifted toward the sound. Slow. Careful, not the heavy steps of his own kind. Lighter, uneven. A figure appeared through the smoke. The being was small, soft-looking, wrapped in damaged armor that lacked the sharp edges and glowing threat displays common among advanced species. The helmet was scratched, the chest plate cracked. A weapon was held tightly but not raised. A human. Karek had seen humans only from a distance, newcomers to the war, loud, stubborn, physically weak compared to most warriors of the galaxy. Many species thought they would not last long. The human stopped when he saw Karek. For a long moment, neither moved. Karek expected death. The human would see the markings on his armor, recognize him as an enemy commander, and fire. That was the logical choice. That was what any rational soldier would do, but the human did not fire. Instead, he slowly lowered his weapon. Karek did not understand. His translator implant still worked, though it crackled with damage. He could hear the human breathing through the open helmet. Fast. Tired but steady, the human took a cautious step closer. "You alive?" the human asked. The words were simple, roughly spoken, but clear. Karek did not answer at first. His throat felt dry, speaking felt pointless. What was the point of conversation when death waited minutes away? "Yes," Karek finally said. His voice was weak, strained. "Not for long." The human's eyes widened slightly, not in fear, in surprise. "You're paralyzed?" the human asked, kneeling carefully. "Yes." The human looked around, scanning the shadows, then back at Karek. He did not reach for his weapon again. Instead, he reached to his belt and pulled out a small canister. Water. He held it near Karek's mouth. Karek stared at it as if it were a weapon he did not recognize. "Drink," the human said. "Slow." Karek hesitated. No enemy had ever offered him water. No ally would waste it on someone already discarded. But his thirst won. He drank. The water was cool, real. For the first time since the blast, Karek felt something other than pain. "Why?" Karek asked after a moment. The human shrugged slightly. "Because you're hurt." "You know who I am," Karek said. "My armor marks me as your enemy." "Yeah," the human said. "I noticed." "Then finish it," Karek said, "or leave. Either way, do not insult me with false mercy." The human frowned. "Look," he said, "I don't know much about your people, but where I come from we don't leave wounded soldiers to die, even enemy ones, not if they can still breathe." Karek felt something twist inside his chest. Not pain, something unfamiliar. "You will die for this," Karek said. "Your own side will not forgive you." The human gave a short, humorless laugh. "They already think I'm dead." That was when distant gunfire echoed through the ruins. The human stiffened. "Raiders," he muttered. He looked down at Karek again. There was no hesitation now, only decision. "Can you move your arms?" the human asked. "One," Karek replied. "Good enough." The human moved quickly, clearing debris, dragging a broken slab closer. He positioned it as cover, then returned to Karek. "I'm not leaving you," he said, "but you have to trust me." Trust. The word felt heavy. Karek had trusted only strength. Orders, honor, none of those had saved him. But this human, this strange, fragile creature, stood between him and the enemy with nothing but damaged armor and stubborn eyes. "I trust you," Karek said quietly. The first shots rang out seconds later. Energy bolts slammed into stone. The human fired back with controlled bursts, moving with surprising speed. He was not as strong as Karek's kind, but he was fast. Clever. He used angles, shadows, broken walls. Karek watched, stunned. This human should have been dead 10 times over, yet he was. A raider rushed too close. The human shot it down, then dragged Karek further into cover, grunting with effort. "You're heavier than you look," the human said through clenched teeth. Karek almost laughed. Almost. More raiders were coming, too many. The human cursed softly. "I can't hold them here," he said. "We need to move." "I cannot walk," Karek said. "I know." The human pulled a cable from his pack and secured it around Karek's armor. Then he braced himself and began pulling. Pain flared through Karek's body as they moved, but he did not complain. The tunnels ahead were narrow, half-collapsed. The human dragged him inch by inch, firing backward whenever enemies appeared. At one point, an explosion threw them both against the wall. The human hit the ground hard. For a terrifying second, he did not move. Karek felt panic rise. "Human," he said sharply, "get up." The human groaned, then pushed himself upright. Blood ran from his forehead. "Still here," he said. They reached an old maintenance tunnel and collapsed inside. The human sealed the entrance with a manual override just as blaster fire struck the door. Silence followed. The human slumped against the wall, breathing heavily. "We bought some time," he said. Karek looked at him. No one had ever risked this much for him, not even his own kind. "You should have left me," Karek said. The human shook his head. "Nah." "Why?" Karek asked again. The human met his gaze. "Because everyone deserves a chance to live," he said. "Even when the world says they're done." Karek felt something break inside him, not weakness, something stronger. Outside, the war continued without them. Inside the dark tunnel, an abandoned alien warrior and a stubborn human soldier waited together. For the first time since the blast, Karek did not feel like he had been left to die. He felt like he had been found. The tunnel smelled of rust, burned wiring, and old oil. Dim emergency lights flickered along the walls, casting weak shadows that stretched and moved like living things. The heavy door behind them trembled once, then went still. The raiders outside moved away, their footsteps fading into the distance. The human soldier stayed still for a long moment, listening. Only when he was sure the sounds were gone did he finally relax. He slid down the wall until he was sitting on the cold metal floor, breathing hard. His hands shook as the rush of battle slowly left his body. Karek watched him closely. The human looked small now, tired, bleeding. Without the movement and noise of combat, he looked fragile in a way Karek had never seen in a warrior before. "You are injured," Karek said. "Yeah," the human replied. "I've had worse." That was clearly a lie. Blood continued to drip from the cut on his head, dark against the gray floor. His left arm moved stiffly, and one of his legs dragged slightly when he shifted position. Still, the human reached into his pack and pulled out a small medical kit. He opened it with his teeth and began treating himself without complaint. Karek felt useless. His body refused to respond below the waist. Even sitting upright took effort. His once powerful form felt like a prison made of flesh and armor. "You should tend to yourself first," Karek said. "I cannot move. I am not going anywhere." The human shook his head and crawled closer. "Can't leave you bleeding out," he said. "Enemy or not." He examined the damage to Karek's armor. The crack along the spine was deep. Any medic from Karek's species would have declared the injury permanent without hesitation. "Does it hurt?" the human asked. "Yes," Karek answered honestly. The human gave a small nod and injected something into a port on Karek's armor. "Pain blocker," he said. "It's for humans, but it should take the edge off." Moments later, the sharp pain dulled. It did not disappear, but it became manageable. Karek closed his eyes briefly. "You alter alien biology without hesitation," he said. The human shrugged. "You were dying without it." That simple answer carried weight. Time passed slowly. The emergency lights buzzed softly. Somewhere far above, ships passed through the sky. The war was still happening, but here in this narrow tunnel there was only waiting. Karek studied the human. "What is your name?" he asked. The human looked surprised, then smiled faintly. "Ethan." "Karek," the alien replied. "Of the Vierks clans." Ethan nodded as if that meant something important. "Nice to meet you, Karek," he said, "even if the situation sucks." Karek almost smiled. Almost. Silence returned, but it was different now, not empty, not hopeless. After some time, Ethan stood and checked the sealed door again. He pressed his ear to the metal. "They're gone," he said, "for now." Where will you go? Karek asked. Ethan looked down at him. Somewhere safe or safer than this. You cannot carry me far, Karek said. Your strength is limited. Yeah, Ethan admitted, but my stubbornness is. He moved to a nearby control panel, its screen cracked but still alive. With careful movements, he powered up the tunnel systems. Old machines hummed to life. There's an abandoned medical station 3 levels down, Ethan said. Coalition built it years ago, then left when the front shifted. No one bothers with it now. Karek felt a flicker of doubt. Coalition medics will not treat me, he said. I am their enemy. Ethan looked back at him, eyes hard. They'll treat you if I make them, he said, or I'll do it myself. That confidence was strange, not loud, not arrogant, just steady. They began moving again. Ethan used a small repulsor sled hidden in a storage bay, likely forgotten for decades. It barely worked, but it was enough to lift Karek off the ground. Ethan guided it carefully through the narrow tunnels, stopping often to listen. As they traveled, Karek spoke. At first it was small things, facts, tactical observations, but slowly, without realizing it, he spoke of more. He spoke of his training from childhood, of being taught that weakness was worse than death, of how injured warriors were honored, then quietly erased. When I fell, Karek said, staring at the ceiling as they moved, I was relieved that I had saved my unit. That was enough. Ethan listened without interrupting. But when they left me, Karek continued, I understood the truth. I was only valuable as long as I could fight. That's messed up, Ethan said quietly. It is our way, Karek replied. Ethan stopped the sled and looked down at him. No, he said, that's not strength. That's fear. Karek did not argue, he could not. They reached the medical station hours later. It was dark, cold, dust covered every surface. Old medical pods lined the walls like silent coffins. Ethan powered up what he could. Systems flickered, then stabilized. Okay, he muttered. Let's see what we're working with. He scanned Karek's injuries using outdated human tech. The screen showed red warnings and unreadable symbols. Ethan frowned. I don't fully understand your biology, he said. But I know enough to know this isn't impossible. Impossible, Karek repeated. My people would disagree. Good, Ethan replied. They're not here. Ethan worked for hours. He connected wires, rerouted power, and used parts never meant to go together. Human medical tools fused with alien armor systems in ways no engineer would approve of. At one point, the station shook as distant explosions echoed through the ground. The war was getting closer again. Ethan did not stop. Finally, he stepped back, exhausted. I can't fix everything, he said, but I might be able to get your nervous system talking again, slowly. Karek felt something dangerous rise inside him. Hope, the machines activated. Energy pulsed through Karek's armor. Pain flared briefly, then faded. Then he felt something, a faint sensation in his right leg. Karek's breath caught. Ethan, he said, voice tight. I felt that. Ethan froze. Felt what? My leg, Karek said. Just a little. Ethan laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound. No way, he said. I do not lie. Ethan moved quickly, checking readings, adjusting controls. It's unstable, he said. Temporary, but it's real. Karek stared at the ceiling, eyes wide. His entire life, paralysis had meant the end. Humans, it seemed, disagreed. Before they could celebrate further, alarms blared. Movement detected. Coalition patrols. Ethan cursed under his breath. They found us, he said. Footsteps echoed outside the station. Ethan stepped in front of Karek without thinking, raising his weapon. Karek, he said quietly, if this goes bad, I can fight, Karek said. Ethan looked back in shock. Slowly, with great effort, Karek forced his fingers to close around a weapon lying nearby. His legs still did not move, but his upper body was steady, focused. Not the warrior he once was, but not helpless. The doors began to open. Coalition soldiers entered, weapons raised. They froze when they saw the scene. A human standing protectively in front of a paralyzed alien warrior. This alien is under my protection, Ethan said firmly. The soldiers hesitated. In that moment, something shifted, not just in the room, but in the understanding of what humans were willing to risk. Karek felt it clearly. He had been left to die once. Now someone was willing to stand and face an army for him. And for the first time, Karek believed that his story was not over yet. The room stayed silent after Ethan spoke. The coalition soldiers looked at one another, unsure what to do. Their weapons were raised, but their fingers were not on the triggers. They had expected to find raiders or looters or empty ruins. They had not expected to find a human soldier standing in front of a wounded alien warrior like a shield. "This alien is a high-value enemy," one of the soldiers finally said. His voice echoed slightly in the empty medical station. "Step aside." Ethan did not move. "He's injured," Ethan replied. "He's not a threat and he's under my protection." The soldier frowned. "That's not how this works." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then maybe that's the problem." Karek watched everything from the medical platform. His heart beat hard against his chest. He could feel faint sensations now, like distant echoes in parts of his body that had been silent since the blast. Not strength, not control, but connection, enough to matter. "Karek," Ethan said quietly without turning around, "if things go bad, stay still." Karek's hand tightened around the weapon he held. His fingers responded slowly, but they responded. "I will not hide behind you," Karek said. The coalition soldiers shifted, uneasy. One of them lowered his weapon slightly. "Command won't like this," the soldier said. Ethan let out a slow breath. "Command isn't here." Before the tension could break, a new sound filled the station. Explosions, the walls shook violently, dust fell from the ceiling. Alarms screamed louder as systems failed one by one. The coalition soldiers reacted instantly, moving to defensive positions. "Raiders!" someone shouted. Blaster fire echoed outside the station. Screams followed. Ethan turned back to Karek. "Looks like we're not done yet." The doors burst open as Void Raiders poured inside, weapons blazing. Chaos filled the room. Coalition soldiers returned fire. Sparks flew. Medical pods shattered. Ethan fired with calm precision, moving constantly, never staying in one place too long. He fought like someone who knew he could not afford mistakes. Karek watched, then forced himself to act. He focused on the feeling in his body, on the faint signals running through nerves that had once been dead. "Move," he commanded. Pain surged. But then his upper body shifted forward. A raider charged toward Ethan from the side. Karek raised his weapon and fired. The shot was not perfect. It clipped the raider's shoulder, spinning it off balance. Ethan turned instantly and finished the fight. Ethan looked back at Karek, shock clear on his face. "You did that," he said. Karek nodded, breathing hard. "I can still fight, just not the way I used to." "That's enough," Ethan said. The battle raged through the station. More raiders came, but the coalition soldiers held their ground, fighting alongside Ethan without question now. Something had changed. Lines drawn by politics and species blurred under fire. When the last raider fell, silence returned once more. The medical station was damaged beyond use. Smoke filled the air. Bodies lay scattered across the floor. Ethan lowered his weapon slowly. "Everyone still breathing?" he asked. Murmurs of agreement followed. One of the coalition soldiers approached Karek carefully. He looked at the alien warrior, then at Ethan. "You saved lives here," the soldier said. "Both of you." Karek said nothing. He was too focused on the strange truth settling inside him. He had been paralyzed, he was still injured, but he was not useless. They moved Karek to a secure transport shortly after. This time no one argued. No one tried to leave him behind. Ethan stayed with him the entire journey. Days passed. The war did not end, but it shifted. Lines moved. Battles were won and lost. And inside a coalition medical facility far from the front, Karek began to heal. Human doctors worked alongside coalition medics, studying his biology with curiosity instead of judgment. Ethan was there every day, pushing, arguing, refusing to let anyone give up. Progress was slow, painful, but real. Karek learned to sit upright without assistance, then to stand for seconds at a time using support frames. Every small victory felt larger than any battlefield triumph he had known. Ethan celebrated each one. Weeks later, Karek stood on his own for the first time. His legs shook, sweat covered his skin. His breath came fast and heavy, but he stood. Ethan grinned like a child. "Told you," he said. "You're not done," news spread. A paralyzed alien warrior, once abandoned by his own people, was walking again because of human stubbornness and care. The story moved through the coalition faster than any official report. Other wounded soldiers began to ask questions. Why were humans willing to save those already written off? Why did they believe broken did not mean finished? Karek was called before his people's leaders not long after. They expected shame. Instead, they saw something else. They saw a warrior who had fallen, been left to die, and returned stronger in spirit than ever before. Not because of honor codes or tradition, but because someone had refused to accept loss. Karek spoke plainly. Strength is not found in abandoning the wounded, he said. It is found in standing when all hope is gone. Some listened, some did not, but the idea could not be erased. Later, when the final battle for the sector came, Karek fought again. Not at the front lines, not charging headlong into fire, but as a tactician, a leader, and a symbol. Ethan fought beside him. Together, they coordinated defenses, saved entire units from being surrounded, and turned near defeat into victory. When the war finally ended in that sector, humans were no longer seen as weak newcomers. They were seen as something far more dangerous, a species that refused to abandon its wounded, a species that believed life had value even when it could not fight. As the ships lifted off and the battlefield faded into history, Karek looked out at the stars. I was left to die, he said quietly. Ethan nodded. Yeah. And yet, Karek continued, I am still here. Ethan smiled. Told you, humans are bad at giving up. Karek placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder, a gesture learned from humans. Because of you, he said, I learned a new meaning of strength. Ethan shrugged, uncomfortable with praise. Just did what felt right. Karek looked at the vast galaxy beyond the viewport. For the first time in his life, he did not fear the future. He welcomed it.